We have a responsibility to help people in need. So I went to the train station and I asked how I could help. And from that day on, I really haven't stopped. I wake up every morning to a lot of emergency calls. People need housing and they need food. I didn't realize in the beginning, but I was making decisions for thousands of people. And I just said yes. I'm still a flight attendant. I have to fly my other job in order to sustain myself here in Greece. Because I've lived such a wonderful, fulfilled life that I can now give back and do something with purpose. I was based as a flight attendant for United Airlines in Frankfurt, Germany. And I was watching on television one day about the refugee crisis. And there were thousands of people that were fleeing from Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq. And they were all coming through Greece into Europe. And at the time, the borders were open, and many of them were coming to Germany. I've traveled the world extensively. I think I've been to 60 countries. So when I saw these people coming through, I thought, not as an American, not as anything else living in Germany, but as a human being, we have a responsibility to help people in need. So I went to the train station and I asked how I could help. And from that day on, I really haven't stopped the work. Every day it's filled with meetings, filled with reaching out to media, to people that want to support the refugees, and of course the work with the refugees themselves. So that's how it started, and I went in with not having any background in many of the things that I'm doing now. It just happened, and as you are in the situation, you're on the ground, you see the needs, you start to become very innovative. It wasn't a decision that I made, it happened to me. I would call it destiny, perhaps. Sometimes the life moves in directions that we don't understand, and you have to be very open to going with these decisions without thinking too much about it. You make decisions as you go along, and I didn't realize in the beginning, but I was making decisions for thousands of people. I'm still a flight attendant. I have to fly my other job in order to sustain myself here in Greece. So it's not something that I've given up to do this work. I've actually taken on the work in addition to my other job. Because I started this project, very simple, with paper and crayons, that's what I did. I took paper and crayons into a refugee camp back in 2016. And the idea was to sell the art and give the money to the children, to the families, so that they could buy food. Whether they're in a refugee camp or they're living on the street, we're able to take them out of that situation, give them canvas, acrylic, and brushes, very simple tools, and they turn it around. They change the narrative of the story, and they create their own success. Everybody has such a talent. And if you're sitting in a refugee camp, nobody's going to know about it. Nobody's going to know about you. I've definitely had some times when it was not possible to keep going. And I found the best way is just to take a day or two out where you turn your phone off and concentrate on being present with yourself. But I think getting a little bit of time away is the only thing that can keep you going, because that can energize you and get you back on focus. I wasn't very good about doing that in the past. So I think that everybody, when you get to a certain age, you really start questioning yourself and your motives and your time. And I remember when I started to travel more and more, I was going to India, and I thought, there's gotta be something else. The more you travel, the more inspired you will become. And I learned this in the most beautiful way because I had the opportunity with my job to go to India. And when I saw the children there, they had barely any clothes. They were very poor. It's a third world country. And when I went to India, it changed my whole life. And I remember thinking to myself, there must be something more for me. So I would encourage people to travel, to learn languages, to open their hearts to different cultures, because when you do that, it broadens your mind, it creates awareness, and then you're going to become inspired. When all of this happened, it was no problem for me to not take money from my work and to be working full-time. Many people ask me, how can you do that? But it's because I've lived such a wonderful, fulfilled life that I can now give back and do something with purpose.
As Kayra flew above the clouds, one stormy night she realized the world below held stories more urgent than those in the sky. The glamour of the airports and the first-class cabins faded. Now she walks the rough roads of conflict zones, guided not by duty, but by compassion. And every day she dedicates her life to those who've lost everything. Kayra no longer serves passengers, she serves humanity.
I don't have any regrets. I think you have to just always look at any mistakes or any bumps in the road as positive moments that will help you learn, because even with the turbulent times in your life, those are the times that make you stronger and make you grow. I have been a risk taker my whole life, and I don't see anything black and white. I always like adventure, I like new opportunities. When I was actually looking for something for our organization, it was right during COVID, and right after I was able to come back to Greece because I have an American passport and I couldn't get here for 8 months. The first thing I did, which was against everybody's advice, was to look to buy a place in Greece. We didn't have the funding. We lost all of our funding during COVID. We didn't have any way of raising the money because people stopped giving. But I knew in my heart that we needed a place because we had been painting with the children in the parks and on my terrace in the back. And I thought, what is the one thing that we need? It's space. And so it's funny because the very first place that I looked at was this place. And I walked in without seeing anything. I just envisioned and I felt, this is for Love Without Borders, and this is what we want, and I'm gonna go after it, however it looks. And we finally accomplished that goal.